So, welcome to another edition of the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. I am super excited that you decided to join me this evening. Now, look, there's so many opportunities for you to receive media, but you decided to be here with me 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then 6 p.m. right Central Time. That's where my guest is coming from this evening, and I'll introduce him momentarily. But I'm super excited to have you a part of the Rashad Mills Show because I always tell people, without you, this show does not exist. So I greatly, greatly appreciate your presence. Now, you can stay connected to the Rashad Mills shows in several ways. Obviously, the first one, we're live on Facebook. Comment, question, and concern. If you put it in the inbox, I'm going to make it my business that it gets heard, read, or your voice will be, you will be noticed and recognized this evening. Now, the other thing, we're live on YouTube as well. So any comments, questions, concerns there, I'm going to make sure that I get to everybody because, again, I appreciate your presence greatly. Now, if you know me, licensed clinical professional counselor, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm super excited to have my brother from another, all the way from the NO, New Orleans, the 504. I was about to recite some No Limit Soldier lyrics, but I might hold off till the end. Uh, Chase Cassine. Chase, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, Rashad. I'm glad you reached out to me and that we connected on social media because,
Absolutely.
like I told you before, we don't have a lot of Black male clinicians. So to connect with you, I'm excited.
Absolutely. And thank you for taking the opportunity and happy belated birthday as well. This must be a big
Thank you.
month for the birthday crowd. My twin girls, they're turning 12 tomorrow. So if you hear somebody in the background saying, Dad, let me know when you can sing happy birthday, it's probably them. But yes, I'm super
All
excited
right.
and thank you for your presence on the show. And let me just say this. When I actually saw that you were having an interview, and I forgot the sister's name, I believe she's a psychologist, and I just saw it. It was something when I saw Swedish therapy. And I said, let me just
Uh-huh.
kind of look into this more because I'm always looking for guests that have sort of that mental health element behind it because obviously mental health is near and dear to me. And then I started researching you and what you have going on, and it was just like a no-brainer. So again, thank you for creating some of the time. So licensed clinical social worker, a baker, an author,
Yes.
and you create content. Now, all of those titles, is there one that sort of stands out a little bit more as opposed to the other one?
The licensed clinical social worker stands out because of my passion for mental health. My
Mhm.
passion for mental health and spreading mental health awareness, working to destigmatize mental health. So that one is like the first one. That matters most to me because that's what brought me to baking,
Mm-hmm.
mental health, bridging the gap between the two, and then that also brought me to being an author. So it's being a licensed
Absolutely.
clinical social worker. Yes.
Absolutely. That's sort of the number one, and things trickle down from that point. So I don't want to get into it too early. I want to have a little element of suspense how you arrived at the book. But let me ask you about this. So as a licensed male clinician,
Mm-hmm.
what was 2020 like for you, just being a clinician and everything that was going on in the world? And there was so many things impacting just people of all races, but particularly Black people. And let's even narrow it down even more, Black
Mm-hmm.
men. So from a clinical perspective, like what was that like for you and then the population that you serve as well?
Well, definitely, that's a great question that you have. Being a Black male clinician in 2020, it was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Being honest, it was definitely difficult. And then I serve a lot of African American population. I see a lot of that population, and it was very difficult. So I had to do things to make sure I'm practicing self care and self regulating myself because again, my clients are coming to me for help.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also I need to make sure that I'm taking care of my mental health. But it was very frustrating. It was aggravating. It was every negative emotion you can feel that I can
Mm-hmm.
name, but I had to work through it. I had to acknowledge it, allow myself to feel it,
Mm-hmm.
and just be real with myself. But it was frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, let me ask you this: are you noticing from people in the area that you work with? Are you noticing that stigma of therapy? Do you see sort of a reduction in that, and people are more willing to open up and sit down and be vulnerable with the therapist? Is that the case for you and your clientele?
Yes, I will say that 2020 brought people, a lot of people who were like, therapy. People have this mythical notion about therapy where uh usually the therapist is, we're gonna be real, usually the
Yeah.
therapist on TV is Caucasian,
Mm-hmm.
male, like a Freudian type. You're
That
laying
has
on
you
your
on the
back.
couch, right? Yeah.
Yeah, laying on the couch on your back, and you're telling them about all your problems, the free association, because basically, just a little psych 101, the reason
Mm-hmm.
why the couch was significant about it in therapy is Freud believed that if you lay in a relaxed state, you will be able to bring things up from things you're trying to
Mm.
repress. So that's why that whole little psych 101 sidebar. But I'm seeing a lot of people saying, okay, you look like me, you able to use hip hop songs and talk about therapy with that. You look like me, you're relatable, you able to, if
Mm-hmm.
I say I had to go to a card game to make money to make some money to pay my bills, you understand that cultural competency, like you get it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do see black people of color are coming to therapy. I do see that stigma being reduced.
Which is an awesome thing. Why do you think there's a shortage of professionals like you and I? And I know that's a very broad question, but why do you think there's a shortage? Because when people find out that I'm a black male therapist, it's like a unicorn.
Right. In the same way that when they find that I'm a black male therapist, like, wait, what? Because therapy has always been, again, it has always been like a Eurocentric idea.
Mm-hmm.
We have been conditioned, and we're gonna keep it 100 as people of color, where things stay in the family. Don't be going telling people all our business and our secrets and all that kind of stuff. So there is some stigma, even though we're having some advancement. There is still that stigma that lingers, that keep people afraid to seek out help and to become a
Mm-hmm.
clinician. So even going back to something you said earlier, when I met with ex Dr. Jess, black psychiatrist, and she was saying even in medical school, they often push people of color into like internal medicine, PCP, OBGYN, all
Mm.
those different. There's not many black psychiatrists either.
Mm-hmm.
So that can also be some institutionalized racism, discrimination there too. So it's a lot of different factors.
Absolutely. Now, Chase, here's a very interesting question. I didn't have this in my notes, but I just thought about this. So you are in New Orleans, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you're in New Orleans. I'm very curious with some of the horrific traumas that that particular area has endured. Like, what was that? So I'm thinking Hurricane Katrina and other like natural disasters and other things. And we talk about mental health, and I'm like, wow, like what was that for you being in that area? Like, could you? How do I want to word this question? Could you pick up on sort of some of the difficulties just from that region of loan?
Well, to answer that question, Rashad, and that's again, you coming with some you the boy
Hey,
look,
I'm trying.
Rashad bow
I'm
tie
trying.
bills is coming with the questions with the heat. You heard me? All right, you
Listen.
coming. Listen. You are coming with the heat. So because of living in this area and living through Hurricane Katrina, people
Mm,
still have unresolved trauma from that. So in my work in being a trauma informed therapist, but also living in New Orleans, I know often what do? We deny, we internalize, we
mm,
minimize trauma, we act as if it's not there. But all it does is increases. It's gonna manifest itself some kind of way in our
absolutely.
lives. But just knowing, having that information, I am able to pick up on the nuances. And then okay, so we had Hurricane Katrina, then with the pandemic, this global
Mm,
pandemic that changed really that where, okay, Hurricane Katrina, but it's also where everybody, and like I explained one time to a client in a session, I said, okay, check this out. And I said it just like this. Check this out. The last pandemic we had was over 100 years ago. So this new to all of us. This new you weren't alive 100 years ago. Maybe you were in another. You maybe reincarnated or something. I don't know.
in a different
Maybe
state,
we're
right?
reincarnated.
Yeah.
I don't. But we just for the record, just to we were not alive 100 years ago. So this is all new to us, and this has brought a lot of worry, panic, stress, anxiety to all of us.
Yeah, it was absolutely different. And thank you for sharing that information because again, that's not something I literally just thought about in terms of regional. I think that some areas are exposed to more trauma, as opposed to, Hurricane Katrina. If I'm not sure, it was like another, hurricane, and it just sort of me even being in Baltimore, just kind of watching the horrific scenes of the Superdome and everything that was happening. It was just horrific. So you're talking about trauma, and then people were displaced. A lot of people went to Houston and different parts. um, so
All
you're
over.
talking about just compounding trauma after trauma. So go ahead, jump right in.
Along with just the other trauma within the community of violence, black on black
Yes,
violence.
absolutely.
Often, this is just a little sidebar. Look, just a little sidebar. Learning Psych 101. I just want to share. Just like often we see kids being labeled with ADHD, but that's
Mm,
often trauma of maybe witnessing, a neighborhood violence or,
mm-hmm.
trauma, violence within the home. It's all those different things. So, yes, Hurricane Katrina and Rita, just going back to that, Hurricane Katrina and Rita were
Rita, that was
horrific.
the other one.
Yeah, was definitely horrific, and it changed a lot of things. It changed violence that a lot of us once knew. But in the same way how we're gonna have hurricanes and not trying to get all preachy, but we're gonna have some kind of in life, some kind of inevitable thing is going to happen. So it's where, yeah, we had Hurricane Katrina every year, but there's still some kind of there's going to be other things, other places, natural disasters and stuff. And I saw where the pandemic brought, because it was global, that people of whatever, don't matter what your socioeconomic status or what kind
Mm,
of job you had, what hate, what shade or hue, I'm sorry, I mean say shade or hue you are, but it brought people a common theme, in the same way that in the sweetest therapy, a common theme that I wanted to make a universe that's universal to all of us. I wanted it to appeal to everybody, where we all relate to it and we all can.
absolutely.
Even you just
So
watching in Baltimore, that's still that vicarious trauma.
absolutely. So you kind of talk about the violence, right? So we were just
Yes,
talking about the natural disasters, but also the violence, right? So I'm in Baltimore, and unfortunately, Baltimore has probably mirrored New Orleans, and vice versa in some sense in terms of. I like to say that is unfortunately a pandemic, what we experience in terms of violence in the street. So absolutely. So we're talking a lot about trauma, and I think Chase, this is a perfect segue into again how I came across you, just kind of finding out, your story, and you are the author of the book, The Sweetest Therapy, which I am so excited to have a copy of right here.
hey,
This is like a really, really, it's a really, really good book because it's the first of its kind that I have seen where a therapist has taken something therapeutic, right?
yes,
And sort of made it into a book where no matter your background, whether you had one Psych 101 class or you had none, you can kind
right.
of relate because all of us have been exposed to some kind of trauma. So before we really dive into that, let me kind of go back a little bit, and I want to throw a date
All
at you,
right.
and then kind of go from there. July the 14th, 2017. When you hear that date, like what is that? And I guess we can start kind of getting to how the sweetest therapy was developed.
July 14th, 2017, at 8:16 p.m. was the day, and that's the time that my mother passed away
Mm.
from her battle with breast cancer. So that date, I'll never forget that date because one, her birthday is July 13th. Her birthday was July 13th,
Oh
1958.
wow.
And so we had a birthday party and everything because we believe in, as African Americans, or maybe that's a New Orleans thing, but we celebrate the life that people live. We have our homegoing services. But we had a birthday party before she did pass away, and we had all her church members there. It was beautiful. It was very beautiful. But on the following day, she did pass away. So that date changed my life because a deep rooted fear
Mm.
of a parent or parents passing away manifested itself. So what am I to do now? Where am I to go? What, you're trying to trying to figure things out, even with, what's called the expected death. That doesn't make it any easier. That doesn't, death is death. It's hard. So that's why in using that, I had to start the book off with that date to take you into my story, to make it, you know, give it that authentic piece. And like you said, it is the first I call it a curative cookbook because there's healing in its stages. So in creating the sweetest therapy, I had to use it as a vehicle where I took an authentic approach to my experience, my personal experience. We talk a lot in school about self-disclosure, but if it's clinically appropriate, and it'll be able to build a rapport. And I see it where my community, I often call my Facebook, and you'll see this, my Facebook friend now. So I often, and I put in the acknowledgments, I want to thank my Facebook community. I see social media as a community where we can build people up and we can talk about comfortable things. That's why I created the sweetest therapy. I took an uncomfortable subject and I want to talk about it. And I made it where we could talk about it. I used different cultural references, and I didn't make it so self-help preachy. You know what? My mom died and this is what I did. No, I made it real. I started with, I'm telling you my real story. I ain't giving you, overly preachy, you need to go do this and think happy thoughts. No, I give that personal coupled with that professional insight with a little New Orleans twist. What you got, Rashad, for me? What you got?
So let me ask you this question, and thank you for sharing that information, because I honestly believe, Chase, that somebody will be start their own healing process for actually just watching you and see how that you talk about how you were able to heal and find sort of this healthy coping mechanism to engage in. I really do think that somebody's going to, they're going to start their healing process as a result of this tonight. So thank you for sharing that.
I believe
So let
so
me
too.
ask you this question. Were you already, from a clinical perspective, were you already sort of deep rooted in your work where you knew like these are some of the things that you can engage in to kind of help you, or was it after and going through mom's situation, did that serve sort of as the catalyst that was like, you know what, I can really do these things, particularly the baking, it can really help me try to get to that quote unquote, as we talk about stages of grief, right, as therapists,
Right,
try to get to that
right,
place of acceptance.
right. Okay, so to answer your question, see, you coming with some, man, Rashad
Hey,
Most High
I'm
Mills
listen,
is coming with
listen. I'm coming with
he
that New
coming with some
Orleans
heat
gumbo
tonight.
heat tonight.
He coming with that New Orleans gumbo. I don't even have to add no hot sauce to it. No,
I'm
seriously.
coming
To
with the
answer your
gumbo heat.
to answer your question, it's like a combination of both. All right, I'm gonna tell you
Okay.
why. I am a person-centered therapist. So whatever, in being a person-centered therapist, just to share with you guys, it's where the client is the expert. Often in other therapeutic modalities is where therapist is this expert and they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
cause pain within this person. No, the person have within them, we just gotta, under all of the shame and self-doubt and negative self-talk, to get those tools out that client and help them cultivate a healthier, positive mindset and all that kind of stuff. But it was where I knew about person-centered therapy, but I didn't know that his daughter, Natalie Rogers, Carl Rogers' daughter, talked
Mm-hmm.
about creative arts expression therapy. And in
Ah,
creative
okay.
arts expression, it's called creative arts expression therapy or creative arts person-centered therapy, where in doing things like baking, dancing, you're able to tap into those emotions that we often suppress, and that it has been shown to be therapeutic. Then I also just went down a rabbit hole of just reading, like, it's been scientifically proven that baking helps reduce stress after I lost my mom. Because I was reading an article, how I stumbled upon this. I don't believe things happen by chance. I believe it happened, it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to happen. I believe that I was reading an article and it said learn a new skill. So I have been baking, but not from scratch, on and off like I like baking and stuff, but I was like, you know what? Maybe me cultivating me baking from scratch, maybe doing that, because all the other stuff on the list, I'm be honest, it was like, oh, they go on a lot, go on vacations. I ain't had the money. All right. I ain't had the money. All right. So I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. So we're gonna scratch. I went down the list, scratching. I'm like, yeah, ain't going back to school, not doing none of nah, because I'm working on getting my clinical license. So I would say again, a combination of both to answer your
Okay.
question, Ben. Yes.
Here's one of the things that I took out of the book, Chase.
Mhm.
You said baking. I will not allow self-doubt to keep me stuck. I am releasing and relinquishing self-limiting beliefs. And I thought that was so powerful from anybody, but particularly coming from a professional in the field like yourself.
Mhm.
Because what it does is, I think for somebody that purchases this book, I think it allows them to know that they too have to go through the same process, right? We all
Yes.
have to go through this process. And for you, it was baking. So for somebody else, it may be working out, it may be journaling, whatever it is.
Cooking.
But
Whatever their sweetest therapy is.
and I like it. Something has to be released.
Yes.
And then I thought that was really, really powerful. In terms of what you wrote in the book.
Yeah. Because often what fuels the depression and the anxiety. One
Hmm.
is, yes, the first thing is it's the loss, but also it's that negative self-talk. Recently I posted on Instagram that 80% of our thoughts are negative.
Yes.
They lean or negative.
Yes.
So a lot
Yep.
of that negative self-talk, the shame, the guilt, all of those different things. So it was me also to learn. That's why I want to discuss negative self-talk in the book. Because again, if I'm gonna tell you my story, I have to be transparent. And what often we don't like to do is we don't want to feel vulnerable,
Hmm.
because we've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is weakness, but
Absolutely.
vulnerability is strength. Because so many people are walking around here with these masks. Paul Laurenball was right when he said we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides cheeks and shades
Hmm.
eyes. That's so deep. That's so true, because we put on these masks, especially people of color and just people in general, but I'm talking as a person of color, that
Hmm.
we wear these masks like ooh, she was so strong, he's so strong, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, that's the outward projection, but inside, or if you really pay attention to the person's body language, they really just projecting this. They just projecting that they are having a hard time, but because they fear judgment, they fear the shame of being judged, or often again, that inner critic that lives in all of us
Hmm.
is being fueled, that we have to silence.
Hmm. Here's one of the really interesting things about the work that you and I do,
Mm-hmm.
and we encounter this quite a bit, in particularly terms of when we're dealing with clients who have been through grief, right? Grief and
Yes.
loss, is that, and it's very, how can I word it? Sometimes it's very difficult for clients to understand that even though you're going through a period of grief, it still requires you to work a little bit along the way.
Yes.
Right. And that's what, again, this kind of quote, I'm releasing and relinquishing self-limiting beliefs. So in addition to the grieving process that you're enduring, yeah, you still want to have to do some work along the way. And whatever that work is, that's between you and your therapist. But you still want to have to do some work along the way. And I'm super glad, again, that you can share, right, this tangible work with people to say, you know what? I had to still do some work, and you have to find your own sweetest, your sweetest therapy.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's really, really important. So let's kind of dive into it, because I've been talking about it the entire show, and let's kind of really get into it. So it was interesting how you said that you got to the point of like trying your first recipe, and things didn't work out naturally well, right?
No, they didn't. They didn't. Oh,
Yeah,
the first cake I baked, it was
awful.
drier than a saltine cracker.
And I think you worded it a different way in the book, but I,
I
I can't
oh,
find it.
I
I
did
think
work. Listen, I know how I worded it. It was dry. When I went to cut it, it crumbled like sawdust or it was dried and
So that's
sawdust.
what it is. Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
Yeah. So here's the interesting part. So you tried, right? You make an awful cake at first,
Yes.
absolutely awful, tasteless. Here's the thing that I want to know, because I don't know if I read this in the book, and I want you to share this with people that are watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. Have my brother from another therapist, black male therapist in the field, Chase Cassine, right?
Cassine. You said it. You
Cassine, and I gotta
Cassine.
say it right because that's that New Orleans, the
That's
504 twist to it, licensed clinical social worker, author of the book, The Swedish Therapy. And we're kind of talking about the first cake that you made. It just didn't turn out well. I am curious, was there a thought in your brain at that point that said, you know what, maybe I need to find something else to do. Maybe this isn't the way that I am going to kind of, cope with it. Because when people are going through, grief, it's like they'll try something. If it's not working, it's like, you know what, I don't
yes.
have the mental wherewithal to kind of go and stick through this process. Did that thought ever enter your mind?
Honestly, it did.
Mm-hmm.
But because I I struggle with perfectionism. That
Mm,
false ideal of perfectionism that okay, the first time I bake this cake, that it's gonna bake up right and it's gonna so then when that didn't happen, because I was having this false ideal that it's gonna bake up right. This my literally my first time I just jumped off the porch, as we were saying in New Orleans, baking this cake. So when it didn't come out right, I had a fleeting thought that maybe I need to try something else. But Rashad, I had to again get myself out of that thinking of because it didn't work out the first time, try it again.
mm,
Because maybe this first attempt, maybe you did something incorrectly. And so each time, after that, I was like, all right, let me write down, okay, maybe I didn't measure this correctly. All right, I did a introspective work and
mm,
re-examined, within myself and re-examined, okay, let me go back. All right. Because baking is a science, it's an art too, but it's
mm-hmm.
science. And so, which therapy is an art too. It's the art of listening. Because I
I
need to
remember.
listen.
Yeah,
Huh?
I remember, Chase, in the book that you said you had mentioned the scientific component about baking. And
Yes.
again, I have to say this again. I think it was really critical that you just said that you still had to work through it. Like I couldn't
Yes.
just, try one time and kind of end it because a lot of people, I love CBT, right? A lot of people have these irrational thoughts and, connects to
Yes.
these feelings and behaviors. So you had to work through it. Mindy Whitman chimes in and says 6 times then perfection and perseverance.
Yes. Let me shout out Mindy for a second, y'all. Mindy has been working through the sweetest therapy. She's been posting. She is like one of my spokespeople. I love Mindy. All the way in VA. She is repping the sweetest therapy.
Shout
Love you,
out to
Mindy.
Mindy. Six,
Shout
only
out to
six
Mindy.
times, Chase. Only six
Yes.
times, then boom, we got perfection.
Yes.
Now, this love of baking, was mom a baker, or like was it a correlation between mom being a baker and you, or you just okay, that's interesting.
No, listen. Most people in my family are cooks. My mom didn't. She cooked. She was not like. She wasn't no baker, and she knew how to cook some things, right?
Mm,
But like for the most part, people in my family are more cooks. Now my aunt that passed away, my great aunt, we called her Auntie Duck. She knew how to do a little baking, but she was more of a cook though too. So nobody really was no baker. And my maternal grandmother, my mom's mom, she knew how to cook and bake as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Kat Wilson chimes in. She says, "Great evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. One of the awesome
Thank you.
God family members right there. So we appreciate your presence this evening.
Appreciate
So
you.
it's really interesting that mom wasn't a cook, right? You kind of got into this baking thing, kind of stumbled upon some stuff, and kind of jumped in. At what point did you say, you know what? This is something that I am really feeling. This is really helping me kind of cope, helping my grieving process. Was it a particular recipe? Was it sort of a magic moment? Like when was it? When was it when you said, you know what, I got this thing down?
Well, there was like a magic moment that
Hmm.
is mentioned in the book, The Sweetest Therapy, now in stores.
I
where,
like the way that you plug that. I like the way that you plug that. Go ahead, give it to him one more
of
time. Plug it
course,
again.
so there was a magic moment mentioned in the book where I had multiple failed attempts at baking, but there was this magical moment that it still, even in talking about it, it seemed really uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
Sweetest, it's in the sweetest therapy. All right, in the introduction section. Now in stores at a retailer near you.
Hell, I
Amazon.com,
like
Black
it.
Bookstore, BarnesandNoble.com. All right. So there was this magical moment, almost seemed magical, supernatural, uncanny, where I'm like, you know what? I'm not about to get discouraged. I'm not doing this. I'm not about to get in this place. Let me get up. Let me start preparing my things, put my flour, measuring it correctly, all that kind of stuff, let my eggs get room temperature, all preheat my oven, all things I talk about in the sweetest therapy, now in stores. And it's where I do all of these different things. I'm like, you know what, today I said an affirmation like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna do it. And that was the seventh attempt that was successful. Seven is the
Mhm.
number of completion, my brother.
Ah,
All right.
it is. It
Spiritual
is.
completion. That's right. But
It
my thing
is.
I was proud of, even though it's all, in life sometimes we don't realize that the smallest things have the hugest impact on us, to
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, baking is therapeutic. Baking is therapeutic in the same way how exercise, and I like how you said that earlier, exercising releases happy hormones. Same way
Absolutely.
how baking and cooking, poetry, it's about finding your sweetest therapy. And
Mm.
I found mine in baking. That doesn't mean that baking is yours. It may be cooking. It's something. It's about finding your sweetest therapy. But I will say, you will walk away with some laughs, some great mental health knowledge, and some New Orleans history too. The sweetest
We,
therapy now. So
we're going to talk about that a little bit toward the end of the show. Kay chimes in. She says, okay, Chase, get the book for that magical moment. Yes. Mindy, my VA people, says yes. And then back to Kate. She says, baking and cooking is therapeutic for so many. I'm so
yes,
glad that you found your center. Absolutely. Now,
yes,
this is a part, this is the beginning of the book. We talk about coping with negative self talk. And again, this is near and dear to me as a therapist. You talk about mindfulness. Tell us a little bit about how this baking forced you to really be mindful and, to be honest with you, served as a way to keep you grounded in the moment, because as you're
yes.
baking you gotta like really be mindful, and you can't have these sort of distracting thoughts, or we'll have some burnt cakes.
I mean, Rashad, you kind of answered that question. All right, just elaborate a little more on what you said at the end. If if when I come home and I enter into my home and I'm thinking about, oh, I had such a stressful day, oh, I want to bake. Okay, sounds good, right? But then I'm still thinking about how stressful my day was. I'm thinking about how I still have progress notes to write. I still have
Oh man, don't mention those.
billing, and I still have all these different things, but I'm trying to bake, right? I'm trying to bake, I'm trying to de-stress. But it's where I'm trying to get this cake together, brownies or whatever it is I'm baking, whatever. But my mind, I'm so distracted to where, okay, I put everything together. All right, it looks like a good, uniform batter. But when I go to bake it, it didn't even rise. So it doesn't even taste, it didn't rise. The cake didn't even rise. So that's already letting you know that cake gonna be poof. It did not rise at all. So you're gonna have a burnt cake. Even if you did even if I did, or whatever, anybody, even if you do a great job where you're able to be able to focus in on that moment, but then you put the cake in the oven and then your mind start drifting off somewhere else.
Mm,
Cakes are burnt. Same way with you cooking. You have to be mindful. Practice. You have to be mindful. And you have to practice that mindfulness to center yourself, to be able to cook, to be able to bake, to be
mm-hmm,
able to creative writing, dance, whatever your sweetest therapy is. So you have to practice
mm,
that mindfulness and be present in the moment.
absolutely. And Kay says, don't mention notes. Please don't mention notes. I have more than enough to to do right now, so don't mention notes. Here's another very interesting thing, and I want to play devil's advocate for a minute. That Somebody may say, you know what, Chase, I like this concept of the book, The Sweetest Therapy. Right now, you can go to Amazon.com and get yours. Just like I did. Please support this brother and absolutely amazing work that he is doing. And I'll actually offer opportunity at the end of the show to what I do to everybody who watches the show to have them be able to get a free copy of the book courtesy on me. But I'll save that toward the end of the show.
Okay.
One of the things that I'll just play devil's advocate and say is, what would you say to an individual that that is, that is trying to grieve? You say, well, I'm baking, but this could lead to some maybe unhealthy relationships with food. And then we get to the point of, weight loss. And it's like, now I'm dealing with something else. Because I actually I wrote this in my notes, and it was actually the opposite for you.
So with your question, all right, let's go back just to give you guys a little insight. I know this might be hard to believe, but those who know me, and you can look through my old picture on Facebook, I was 212 pounds. All right. Grief has physical symptoms. Often we think of people losing weight. Oh, they're so depressed. But what about emotional eating?
Absolutely.
I had a long day at work, and I don't feel like acknowledging that I had a long day at work. So you know what? I'm gonna eat all this Haagen-Dazs, dulce de leche ice cream, and then I'm gonna feel awful. All right, or I'm gonna just eat my feelings because I don't want. We live in a culture where we don't want to be in our feelings, right? So, we minimize, we suppress, we deny, we internalize our feelings. So we do something, whether it's you abuse substances or have an unhealthy relationship with food. Okay, so my relationship with food was, again, emotional eating. I worked, so a little more insight. I worked for we have what's called the Metropolitan Crisis Response Team. I did that for 5 years before I started working at a community health clinic here as a licensed clinical social worker and therapist. But food is like the kitchen is the heart of the household. Food brings people together. Like, we can have all kinds of potlucks and stuff, right? Right. So, but also we worked a very high, stressful job. So it was where we would have all these parties, and I did a lot of the baking and stuff. Not realizing also too, my mom with her sickness and all those different things before she passed away was just putting the pounds on. And then when she passed away, July 14th, 2017, I was 212 pounds. All right. So then, all right, isolating yourself, all that kind of stuff, all things that come with grief. That is a universal theme that we all will experience at one point or another. All right. So in doing that, struggling with my weight, I began to bake. I said, you know what? I know that people probably be thinking, all right, you began baking and then you lost weight. I did. And as ironic as that sounds, because one thing I practice is moderation. You can eat whatever you want, but you have to have moderation. And it lifted me, because if I'm baking, it's making happy hormones happen in my head. I'm able to many times, little sidebar, many times I have cried baking, but that's a release. That's cathartic, or I would call that catharsis. But that was my way to release that pain, and bake something, turn that pain into purpose. And it gave me the energy to start walking, to be able to, you know what, I got to get my physical self together, because mental and physical are interconnected.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
So it was very helpful for me, and it taught me again how to eat in moderation. And that often when I bake stuff, Rashad, when you come down here to New Orleans, you saw me bake that praline pound cake for the mayor, and that's one of my best sellers. But when I first baked a successful cake, I shared it with people in my community, my neighbors who've been there for me, my best friend, my sister, everybody. Where I had one piece of cake, and that's still even now, where I'll just eat one thing. It's just seeing them be fulfilled, and just how much joy and happiness that brought. Again, it's the smallest things that we just can overlook sometimes in life, where it's like, oh, baking. But again, it's impactful. Same thing like cooking. You know how chefs like to hear people, rant and rave about their food? Same way bakers do too.
Yeah, it's really interesting that, and I just asked that question because I know maybe somebody's watching the Rashad Mills show here on Awesome God Radio, YouTube, and Facebook Live that may actually ask that question. As a therapist, you got into baking. Is that something that can be this unhealthy, addictive way to cope? But for you, it wasn't. It was very cathartic, but it was also one that you allowed yourself to get in this place of moderation. So I want
Yes,
people that are listening to the show tonight to understand that you can cope, but you don't have to do it to the point that it is obsessive and it's
that's right.
unhealthy, right? So
Yes.
you engaged in baking. It would have been really easy, Chase, for you to eat everything that you were actually baking, but
Yes.
moderation. So I got to get to this, Mindy, my VA people. I'm absolutely loving her energy tonight. She
Yes.
says, "Yikes, get off my food toes." She says, "I bake and share. That's my way around the emotional eating." Yes, emotional eating is very real, my friends. She says, "Me too, Chase. I've lost 65 pounds in my healing process." And then she goes into pain into purpose. She says, "Exactly. Share the love." And then my pops, my main man, tuning into the Rashad Mills show. He says, "Baking and cooking is great therapy." Now, pops, I hope
Yes.
you're still on the line. Chase, I bet you're an amazing, amazing baker. I would put up the house and the ranch that my dad would get you. That my dad would get you. He
Okay.
might just edge you out.
All right. All right. We can do that.
Uh,
Look, I like a good challenge. Come on. I'm ready.
now, he listen. I know y'all got those New Orleans flavors down there, but my man is absolutely serious on the bacon tip. So yes, Mindy, challenge. Let's throw it down. We'll meet
Challenge.
somewhere in the middle and just let you guys have a bake off. That would be fantastic. Says bacon
I'm sure
and
would. And
cooking
it'll
great
be
therapy.
therapeutic, like he said, like
Yes,
we've been saying the
absolutely.
whole
He
time.
said it's like life put the right ingredients together and the world would love. That is until you look down at the scale. Washing the dishes is therapeutic. They don't talk back. Sometimes the moment of quiet time is golden. My pops, my man. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Dad, for tuning into the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. So talking to licensed clinical social worker Chase Cassine. I always kind of get the last name.
You saying
That
it
New
right.
Orleans
No, you
twist
saying
on it.
it brother from another. You said it
Okay, I just
correct.
want to make sure that New Orleans twist on it. Now, out of all the recipes that you have in this book, is there one that stands out more than others? And then tell me why. Like, what is that makes it near and dear to your heart more than another one? I'm assuming that if I had to take a guess, would I be right to assuming it's the pound cake?
Mm-mm.
No.
The
Okay.
pound cake is significant to the story in the
Okay.
sweetest therapy. All right, that was significant to not giving up after a failed attempt.
Okay.
The sweetest therapy. But my favorite dessert, honestly, Rashad, is on the cover of the book.
Okay.
That is
So
my
let me let
favorite
me let
dessert.
me bring this up to people that and I know people are going to rush out to Amazon right now to get their own copy, but I'll definitely share mine, The Sweetest Therapy. Now, what is this? Because it looks absolutely delicious. It has that fine New Orleans flair and appeal to it, and it has that great presentation. So what is this?
A brownie a la mode. And
Brownie a la mode.
why I love brownie a la mode. And it brings me back to like my inner child, where I would
Mm,
go to my grandmother and I would go to restaurants and stuff, and we would, that would be the dessert that I would always get. So it keeps me in touch with that inner child inside
the,
of me. I know that
okay.
sounds so
The
licensed clinical
brownie.
social worker. Yeah, self-helpish. That's my
Okay.
favorite. It's simple. It's not too much. It's just simple. And
Brownie
you know
a la
what?
mode.
I don't even be putting that chocolate and all that. When I do it at my house, I give me a scoop of ice cream. I have my little brownie, nice little size.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
it's
got
simple
yourself.
and
Now,
classic.
listen, Chase, this challenge, we might have to call this the Chase Challenge. This thing is exploding already.
Come on.
So my wife chimes in. My wife chimes in from the other room. She says, "I like to participate in this challenge." Now, listen, she's got some skills too. So we might have to put together like a therapeutic
Chop.
challenges, and all the proceeds
Therapeutic
go to some
chop
mental
bake
health
off.
organization. Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I
Now,
like it.
Mindy, I'm curious. Now, I'm curious. Can Mindy bake as well? Mindy, I
Mindy
would
can
like.
bake. Rashad, check her out on my page. She listen. Mindy been baking, and what I love about her is She's been baking, she's been repping for the book, and she's been sharing. She's
Mm,
cultivated a community of people, getting them into, checking out the sweetest therapy. She had her friends take pictures with it and say how much they enjoyed the desserts and stuff that she baked, and is bringing people together. I
mm.
want communal healing is what I desire.
I
I
like it. I like it.
I
Now,
want
one
it
of the
for the
things is
world.
if I'm flipping through the book now, Chase, we talked about this a little bit early, and I wanted to get back to this. Is I see the New Orleans culture, people
Yes.
dancing in the street, and I see some of the names, a streetcar named Strawberry Vanilla Cake. So, kind of tell me how you took this book and you took the cultural part of New Orleans and you sort of intertwined it all together.
All right. So the book, in essence, the book represents me. So it's things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about, one, family, my
Mm-hmm.
friends who I often talk about in the book. I'm passionate about New Orleans culture. I'm passionate about baking,
Mm-hmm.
and I love mental health. Those are all the things that, if I had to give you something that's symbolic of who, like, who is Chase? Give me something, a symbol. The sweetest therapy is that. Because think about it, from the name on down, the name is wordplay. My dual identity as a clinical therapist and baker. All right.
Mm.
So the name, then also the color of the book. My favorite color is blue. All right. I like blue and gold. So brown and yellow mold, all that. This book represents me. And then also too, like you said, a streetcar named Strawberry Vanilla Cake. Tennessee Williams loved New Orleans, and he's one of the arguably one of the greatest writers ever, in my opinion. And he wrote A Streetcar Named Desire here when he lived in the French Quarters. My favorite.
Absolutely.
All right, I got 100 on my test in in school at Southern University at New Orleans in my English 203 class, because it was like, I was like, oh, we're doing A Streetcar Named Desire, and I watched all those old movies and stuff, which are all
Wow.
things I mentioned in the sweetest therapy.
Wow. So,
Yes.
as a resident of New Orleans, you probably have an advantage because, I mean, that is a culture where food is a huge part of the culture. And I would imagine everybody there they probably got some secret seasonings that's only synonymous with the culture. The rest of us don't even have access to it, I bet.
Yeah, that's true. We don't
Yeah.
tell all of our secrets here.
I was going to
We
say, you probably wouldn't tell all of your secrets. Mindy chimes in. She says, I follow directions well. She says, bacon is new to me. I cook, but all of the
Yep.
sweetest therapy baked goods have been devoured by friends and family, and that is a good thing.
That is a good thing. And I made it to where, another thing I shared before was, the sweetest therapy is for amateur bakers. So, and it could be for experienced bakers, but I know I'm still, even though I've been in this game for about 4 years, almost 4 years in November when I started baking. But I didn't go to Le Cordon Bleu. This book, even if you're not a baker, all right, even if you're not a baker, it still will appeal to you some kind of way, because it has a great story that we can all relate to. It's relatable, it's inclusive,
Hmm.
and it have that. I like to coin it. And my friend, a friend of mine who loved the book, she said, "Sweet to the palate, therapeutic to the soul with a New Orleans twist." And I
I
like that.
like
I've
that.
been using that.
I I
I've
I, I
been
really
using
I
that.
really like that.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so it's really interesting because this is really symbolic of I guess this is really symbolic of how people of color, how we have traditionally healed, right?
Yes.
When we go through grief, we have support systems like family and friends, and then we have the comfort food. And then that's how they got the name, right? Comfort foods. It provides a certain
Correct.
level of comfort. So this is again the sweetest therapy, Chase Case, and licensed clinical social worker. This is on Amazon.com right now. I got mine. Amazon is just amazing in terms of the turnaround time. So I ordered mine, I believe, on like a Wednesday. By Thursday night, Friday
You
morning,
got yours
I
fairly
have
quick.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I told them get mine quick. I need it before the show. Get it here quick, and they
Yeah. Yes.
delivered. So I
Yes.
want to challenge everybody watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio, Facebook, and YouTube Live that if you are interested in using this book whether you're just a baker, whether you are grieving, whether it's a combination of both, or whether you see another amazing black male therapist that provided us with knowledge. You felt his energy, you felt his spirit. I'm going to offer you a challenge that I do with all of my guests that have books. I want to go ahead and put myself out there. I want to provide 2 books. I'll purchase 2 books.
All
For
right.
anybody that wants a copy of the book, just simply send me a DM, Rashad. I watched the show, and just give me a line, or takeaway from the show, or what you're feeling about the show, or maybe one of the recipes that you heard. Send me a line. So I'll leave it up until 12 o'clock midnight in terms of my offer. So by 12 midnight tonight, the first 2 people that DM me, I'll make sure that you get a copy of the book courtesy of me. As an author myself, I always want to support things that people have going on. And again, mental health is near and dear to me. And I always tell people I only work out because I want to eat sweets anyway. So I love sweets.
Right.
That's the only reason why I work out, so I can eat sweets and don't feel bad about it. So
exactly.
Mindy said that's her next attempt. FYI, a street called named Strawberry Vanilla Cake. So she's going to make that one. She says, get your copy ASAP. Folks, get it right now. It is truly the sweetest therapy. And again, Chase, one of the last thing that you said was so very important to understand that you don't have to be Emerald Lagasse. You don't have to be Guy Fieri. No. You just have to be yourself and get a copy of the book, because I know there is some healing in there. And to be honest with you, I think this would be great as a gathering, a family. You can make recipes together. If you're grieving together, even if you're not grieving, it is an opportunity for food, family, and just the opportunity to talk and be around one another. So
communal healing.
Communal healing. Mindy says her Facebook is blowing up right now. So yes, by all means, support this amazing brother and everything that he has going on. So Chase, we got about 7 minutes left in the show. Then there's something I do every Rashad Mills show here on Awesome God Radio, Facebook and YouTube Live. It is called Rapid Fire. Do you subject yourself to rapid fire, yes or no?
Yes.
I'm glad you said yes, because I always tell people, and this is my way to joke with my guests, if you say no, it's my show, so you got to do it anyway. So it's better to say yes. So what rapid fire is, I'm going to bring the heat. Now this is the gumbo with hot sauce in it, frog legs. I'm bringing it.
Frog legs.
I'm bringing it. I've been to New Orleans and had frog legs and absolutely loved them. So rapid fire is, I'm going to give you 30 seconds or less to answer 5 trivia questions. These questions are going to be based upon your background in New Orleans. Maybe it's your background as a therapist, and we know it's going to be about something sweet. So here we go. Here's the first question. The first question is the following. I need you to name both rap artists that had a song a few years ago called Pound Cake. What are the name of those artists? They had a song called Pound Cake. Now, if you need to phone a friend, you can.
Phone a friend. I got a phone a friend. I'm an old soul.
You got to phone a friend.
Mindy, I might look super duper young, but I'm an old soul. Like, I listen to neo soul and old soul.
Neo soul. Okay. So got you. And let me just say this. My pops is still watching. Thank you so much. Great energy. He says, buy 2 more, 1 for me, and pass the other one along. So again, right here in Baltimore, no worries at all. We were definitely showing you the love. So that would be Jay-Z and Drake. They had a song called Pound Cake. They had a song called Pound Cake. This is question number 2. And Mindy, get your fingers together, because you might have to help him. All right, this is number 2, Chase. You ready?
All right.
The year that New Orleans was founded. Is it A, 1703, B, 1710, C, 1715, or D, 1718? The year New Orleans was founded. 1703.
All right. Wait, do it again.
1703, 1710, 1715, or 1718?
D, 1718?
You, my friend, are correct. You're correct.
Because we celebrated our tricentennial like 3 years ago.
Good. You on the board. You didn't even have to call Mindy for the lifeline.
Right.
You didn't have to call Mindy for. Mindy said 1718, so Mindy is on it. All right.
She on it.
She on it. Here's question number 3, Chase. Which of the following HBCUs is not located in New Orleans?
All right.
Is that A, Xavier, B, Dillard, or C, Grambling?
Grambling is located in Grambling, Louisiana.
Ah, you are 2 for 3. You're picking
Yes.
up the pace.
All
You're
right.
picking up the pace. I think this is an easy giveaway, this one right here. Which
All right.
term is used in New Orleans for a submarine type sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
That is not multiple choice. Which term is used in New Orleans for a submarine type sandwich?
A muffalata.
My answer had po' boy.
Oh, it is, but okay. Well, it can.
I had po'
This one
boy.
kind of can go both ways.
It can
This one
kind
kind
of
of go both
listen.
ways, though.
Because your energy is good and you're a therapist, I'm going to go ahead and lean, and I'm the judge. I'll let you slide with that one.
Yes.
Mindy said, "Come on, boy."
Come on.
Now this is last but not least. This is
All
last
right.
but not least. I know you celebrated your birthday last week, right?
Correct.
Now, it's a signature drink of the Tropical Owl, restaurant at 721 Bourbon Street. What is the name of the signature
Hand
drink?
grenade.
You definitely know because you need to let me get it out, and you're absolutely right. The hand grenade.
Hand grenade. Hand grenade. When you said
You had it
tropical
right.
owl drink, yeah.
I had bourbon twist, hand grenade, or the hurricane. So you had it right. The hurricane was it. The hurricane was it. So Chase, it has definitely been a pleasure having you on the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. Super good energy, right? Providing us with a lot of knowledge. Everybody in your circle, I can tell that they're nothing but people with good energy. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. Mindy, my pops, and I want to go back because I don't want to miss a name and leave anybody out. Let's see, I don't want to miss anybody. Kate, Nicole, thank you so much for tuning into the Rashad Mills Show here in Austin. Super excited that you guys stayed along for the entire hour. Again, there's so many different forms of media and outlets, but you decided to be here this evening. This brother was sharing his story of how he turned pain into purpose and to the sweetest therapy ever. Again, my offer still stands. My pops chimed in, and thank you so much for being generous as always. So that is a total of 4 books. Just hit me up, say, Rashad, I want to get a copy of the book, and I'll make sure that you get a book so you can sit around and bake some stuff. And then while you do it, you know what? You can turn your house into a party like Bourbon Street Mardi Gras atmosphere. So yeah,
right. All you gotta do is put second
absolutely.
line music on. If you need a playlist, I'll hit you. I can hook you up with a second line playlist. You know, make you feel like you're in New Orleans. That good communal healing, having a good time.
So listen, that's the playlist I should look up on Spotify. Second line.
I got you, Rashad. I'm gonna send you.
Send me some. Listen, I need some good New Orleans stuff while I'm working out and jogging.
Got you.
I need some good 504 stuff.
I got you.
Okay, so I'll end it. I'll end it with some of the New Orleans language that I absolutely love. You heard me?
You heard me?
Yeah. Chase, again, thank you so much for your time. And any way that I can be of service to you and helping you and kind of push the book and just be sort of a partner as we help people along in our day-to-day opportunities that we have every day as therapists, I'll be more than willing to extend my hand to you. So from Baltimore all the way to New Orleans, we appreciate you greatly. And I'll see you around.
I'll see you around till we'll connect again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too, Rashad. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.
All righty.